Hi, in this three-part series, we'll be looking at how your ToK essay will be marked, some important tips to make sure that you're hitting the assessment targets, and also how you can ultimately push your essay into the excellent grade band. Reading the ToK essay rubric may not only be pretty boring, but it may leave you with more questions than answers regarding what assessors actually want from you. So the purpose of these videos is to break this down for you and hopefully make things clearer. Before we get into that, just a quick shameless plug. I do offer personal feedback for the essays, so check out my website, toklifeline.com, if you're interested in that. Up there, you can also find written breakdowns for each title, and these contain a very detailed analysis of the question, as well as multiple real-life examples and ideas for approaching the title using multiple AOKs and other ToK concepts. I'll put the links to those in the description. Right, let's go over the basics for how your essay will be marked. As you probably well know, unlike your exhibition, the essay is marked by an external examiner and given a score out of 10. And these 10 points are divided into 5 levels, ranging from rudimentary, which is definitely not what you want, all the way up to excellent, which is going to be what we're focusing on here. Examiners use what's known as the assessment tool to mark your essay, which we'll also go over shortly, and they take into account their global impression of your work, so basically what they think the overall quality of your essay is. It's worth remembering that the IB assessors are instructed to mark your essay positively, which means that if you don't do as well in one part of the rubric, this isn't going to affect how you score in another part of a rubric, theoretically anyway. Okay, let's look at the assessment tool, starting with the 5 key assessment targets, which are being relevant to the title, making connections to the AOKs, offering effective arguments, evaluating different points of view, and considering implications. To know whether you're actually meeting these criteria, it's a good idea to ask yourself the following questions both while you're planning and writing your essay. So for the first one, being relevant to the title, ask yourself, do you use the key terms from the title as the basis for your arguments, and do they appear in each paragraph? Now, I'm not suggesting that you should repeat terms like knowledge production every other sentence, but rather that you put them around the start of the paragraph. Also, does your conclusion actually answer the question? So there are a handful of essential things your conclusion needs to contain, which I'll go over in another video, but this is the most important of all. You need to finish your essay with a clear position. Sure, you might want to highlight a potential issue with your conclusion or challenge an assumption made in the title, but first and foremost, you need to answer the question. For the second point, making connections to the AOKs, think about whether you have structured your essay using 2 AOKs and not just specific fields or disciplines. I mention this because every year I see at least a handful of essays which will mention, say, psychology rather than the human sciences. Okay. Do you compare and contrast the AOKs in the context of your argument? So to show you an example of this, here is a student comparing the relative importance of culture in the construction of knowledge in the human sciences and mathematics. They have written, in the human sciences, culture plays an important role in the construction of knowledge, given that culture is a fundamental aspect of the human experience. They go on to say, in comparison, mathematical knowledge is more objective in nature, therefore its production is usually free from cultural influence. So basically what you need to do is show the overlaps and differences between the AOKs both in terms of their general nature and through the lens of the title question. That being said, try to avoid using the same claim and counterclaim for each AOK because you don't want your essay to come across as repetitive. For the third point, offering effective arguments, ask yourself, for each of your arguments, do you provide a compelling point and supporting evidence? It's not enough just to make a claim about something. You need a quote from reputable thinkers, so maybe not Alex Jones, and real life examples to back it up. Also, are your examples generalizable? This doesn't mean making blanket statements, but rather making sure there are comparable instances of your example and that they're not just kind of freak occurrences or outliers. So, saying something like, this one historian claims that the Holocaust never happened, which shows that there can never be a true consensus amongst experts. Okay. For the fourth point, evaluating different points of view, think, have you considered potential counterpoints to your argument? It's really not enough just to present a single perspective in your essay. Moreover, both your claims and counterclaims have to be strong. So, just as with your real life examples, avoid using weak or really fringe arguments which are easy to debunk. And also, are you dedicating roughly the same amount of your word count to each perspective? Because having a claim and counterclaim of roughly the same length will give the impression that your arguments are more or less balanced. And then for the final point, have you shown what some of the real world consequences of your claims might be? And have you shown how such consequences could determine the way we should go about producing and acquiring knowledge in the future? So, this whole notion of implications is really important in ToK because a fundamental part of the subject is taking these abstract ideas about knowledge and applying them to the real world. So make sure you do exactly that in both body paragraphs and conclusion. Well, in the next video, we'll be focusing on the characteristics of an excellent essay. As I mentioned earlier, for feedback and resources, you can check out toklifeline.com. And I hope you found this somewhat useful. If you did, please consider liking, subscribing, etc. And thank you very much for watching.